In this powerful true story, witness how President Ibrahy Trari, while en route to a routine ceremony, made a split-second decision that exposed corruption, healed broken promises, and transformed the lives of hundreds of forgotten families. The boy's name was Malik. His father died serving the country. His mother lay sick. His only hope? A pair of worn-out military boots no one wanted to buy. But when those boots reached the president's hands, they didn't just tell a story. They sparked a revolution. This is not just a tale about power. It's about what happens when power finally listens. If you believe leadership should come with heart, not just authority, this is the story you need to hear. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that remind us what humanity truly looks like. On the dusty morning streets of Kudugu, the presidential convoy moved like a thunderstorm. Black jeeps slicing through the crowd, motorbikes escorting with precision, people waving and cheering. It was supposed to be just another official day, another ribbon-cutting ceremony, another speech. But fate had different plans. Hidden in plain sight, standing motionless on the roadside, was a barefoot boy no one seemed to notice. No smile, no flag, just a ragged shirt and a pair of tattered army boots clutched tightly in his tiny hands. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Inside the lead vehicle, President Ibrahy Trari noticed. His eyes, trained not just to lead, but to see, locked onto the boy. And in a heartbeat, everything changed. "Stop the car," he ordered. The screech of brakes broke the rhythm of the day. Dust rose, confusion spread. Why was the president stopping? The guards hesitated, but Ibrahim was already out the door, walking straight into the crowd, not as a head of state, but as a man with a heart. What he would learn from that child would shake the nation to its core and start a movement no one saw coming. As the dust settled, all eyes turned to the figure stepping away from armored glass and bodyguards. President Ibrahy Trari walked with quiet purpose, his polished shoes crunching against gravel as he approached the boy. The crowd held its breath. Some whispered, others simply stared. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't planned. Kneeling in front of the boy, Ibrahim spoke softly. "What's your name, son?" The boy hesitated, his eyes locked on the worn boots in his hands. His lips trembled. "Malik," he whispered. These were my father's." Ibrahim's voice dropped lower. "Where is he now?" "He died in the East," Malik said. "He was a soldier." "And your mother?" "She's sick. We haven't eaten since yesterday. I tried to sell these boots, but no one wanted them." A tear slipped down his cheek. "I didn't want to sell them, but my sister is hungry." The president reached out, gently taking the boots. They were filled with holes, crusted with dirt, but they had marched across battlefields, carried a man who gave his life for his country. "Your father was a hero," Ibrahim said, his voice cracking. "And I promise you, you will never have to sell his boots again." For a moment, the world stood still. President Ibrahy Trari didn't say much. He didn't need to. He held the boots in one hand and Malik's tiny fingers in the other. Then, to the crowd's astonishment, he gently lifted the boy into his arms and walked him to the lead car, his own seat. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few clapped. Many just watched in awe. This wasn't a photo opportunity. There were no cameras flashing, no media handlers whispering stage directions. It was real, raw, unfiltered compassion. Ibrahim turned to his aides and said firmly, "Find this boy's mother, today. And I want a list of every family in this area who lost someone in the military. I want it now." Inside the car, Malik sat, speechless beside the president. He looked out the window as the convoy moved again. Slower this time, more thoughtful, as if carrying more than passengers. It now carried a broken promise that needed mending. And somewhere in the stunned crowd, an old man leaned toward his grandson and whispered, maybe this is the leader we were waiting for." From that moment on, Ibrahim wasn't just a president. He was a man who stopped for one child and began a movement. That evening, Long after the applause faded and the roads cleared, President Ibrahy Trari sat alone in his office. No speeches, no ceremony, just silence, and a pair of old battered boots sitting on his polished desk. They didn't look like much. Scuffed soles, torn leather, dust still clinging to the laces. But to him, they spoke louder than any report or briefing. They weren't just Malik's inheritance. They were the last footsteps of a forgotten hero. A silent cry for justice. He called an emergency session. The room filled quickly with top officials from the Ministries of Defense, Social Welfare, and Veterans Affairs. Some looked tired, others confused. None expected what came next. "I met a boy today," Ibrahim said, holding up the boots. "His father died in service, his mother is sick, they haven't eaten. They tried to sell these to survive." The room fell quiet. One official, shifting nervously, finally spoke. "Sir, our records show the family was fully compensated after the soldier's death." Ibrahim narrowed his eyes. "You're sure?" "Yes, Mr. President." He stood. "Then let's go find out." No more words were needed. That night, the president was back on the road, this time not for ceremony, but for truth. By nightfall, the president's car turned off the main roads, heading deep into the alleys of Kudugu. No sirens, no advance notice. Just Ibrahim, a quiet fury growing behind his calm expression. He wasn't coming as a leader tonight. He was coming as a witness. Malik's home was little more than a crumbling clay structure, its roof patchy with holes, the door barely hanging on. Inside, a thin woman lay on a worn mat, coughing weakly. A smaller girl, barely 5, slept beside an empty cooking pot, its silence louder than any cry. Mariam, Malik's mother, struggled to sit up when she saw him. "You shouldn't have to," Ibrahim said gently, kneeling beside her. "I came because something is wrong." He asked her, "Did you ever receive support from the army after your husband died?" She shook her head slowly. "They said money was coming, but it never came." His jaw tightened. The pain in her eyes wasn't just about hunger, it was betrayal, and betrayal demanded answers. By morning, Ibrahim had ordered a full-scale investigation. What it uncovered would shake the nation's faith in its institutions. This wasn't just one family's tragedy. It was the exposure of a silent theft, repeated 100 times over. Within 48 hours, President Ibrahim's urgent investigation pierced through layers of paperwork and bureaucracy. And what they found was chilling. The payment to Malik's family had indeed been approved, on paper. But in reality, the money never reached them. A high-ranking officer had diverted the funds into a fake account, using forged signatures, shell companies, and silent bribes. It wasn't an isolated case. He had stolen from over 100 families, widows, orphans, forgotten heroes, without a trace. For 2 years, no one noticed. Or worse, no one wanted to notice. Ibrahim went live on national television that night. No script, no spin. Just the boots on the desk and a truth too heavy to ignore. "I cannot stand before this country and pretend everything is fine," he began. "We lost brave men to war, and then betrayed their families in peace." He slammed the boots gently onto the table. These almost ended up in a trash pile because the system failed. Then came the line that stunned the nation. "Tell me, where did the money go?" By the end of the week, arrests were made. Corrupt officers were fired. And Ibrahim issued a new directive. No more middlemen, no more excuses. Every coin goes directly to the families. A reckoning had begun. The arrests were just the beginning. President Ibrahy Trari knew that removing corrupt officers wouldn't heal the wounds. The real cure had to come from within the system itself. And so, he did something few leaders dared. He dismantled the very structure that enabled silence and shadows. In a televised address to Parliament, he declared, "From this day forward, every support payment to soldier families will be transferred directly. No intermediaries, no approvals, no signatures in back offices. Only verified accounts, secure systems, and direct delivery." He made every ministry head sign a declaration of responsibility. Line by line, name by name, I will know every number, every child, every widow. Under my watch they will not be forgotten. But he didn't stop at signatures. He brought the change into the cabinet room itself. Ibrahim invited widows and orphaned children of soldiers to speak directly to the ministers. One girl, only 10 years old, stood before the most powerful men in the country and asked, "Why did my dad die for this country, if you forgot us?" The day after his funeral, silence. No one answered. Ibrahim did. "If you cannot answer her," he said, looking each of them in the eye, "then you have no place in this government." The room and the nation would never be the same again. What started with one boy's dusty boots soon echoed across an entire nation. In the weeks that followed, people began calling it the March of the Boots. But it wasn't about the shoes. It was about what they now represented: sacrifice, accountability, and the duty to remember. They weren't just Malik's boots anymore. They belonged to every orphan, every widow, every family left behind by war and forgotten by peace. President Ibrahim launched the Children of Heroes initiative, building schools, clinics, and safe housing for military families. He created a national memorial fund, but this time it wasn't run by politicians. It was governed by widows, veterans, and citizen advocates, those who truly understood the cost of silence. Mobile teams traveled village to village, documenting every case, bringing aid not with cameras or headlines, but with food, medicine, and school uniforms. Malik's life changed too. He now wore clean clothes, polished black shoes, and attended a new school. But every night before bed, he would gently wipe the dust off his father's old boots and place them beside him. "I'll wear them when I'm big enough," he told his teacher one day. Not to fight, but to serve. And in that simple promise, a nation found its new North Star. Back in the presidential office, among polished wood and golden frames, sat something that didn't belong. 2 torn, dusty boots resting at the center of the president's desk. They weren't decoration. They weren't a prop. They were memory. Responsibility. A quiet reminder that leadership doesn't begin in marble halls, but in muddy roads and forgotten homes. During high-level meetings, when advisors spoke of growth and progress, Ibrahim would glance at those boots and silently ask himself, progress for who? The answer had to include people like Malik. Meanwhile, Malik's world had transformed. His mother, Mariam, recovered in a real hospital room, not a broken clinic. His sister, Aisha, laughed again. And Malik, who once tried to sell his father's memory just to survive, now thrived in a school that bore his father's name. But the boots never left his side. Each night, he still placed them by his bed, and across the nation, children of soldiers did the same. Worn boots appeared on doorsteps, at school entrances, in public squares. Not in protest, but in quiet pride. A symbol that someone finally listened. And when Ibrahim was later asked what sparked this nationwide change, he simply replied, "One boy stood in the dust and reminded me what power is for." The convoy drove on that morning, but it carried more than just a president. It carried a broken system and a promise to fix it. From a dusty street in Kudugu, one boy reminded a nation and its leader what it truly means to serve. Not through protest, not through anger, but through a pair of boots and a silent plea for dignity. And as those boots found a permanent place on President Ibrahim's desk, they transformed into something more than leather and laces. They became a mirror held up to every official, every decision-maker, every citizen. Are we truly seeing the people we lead, or are we simply moving past them? Some stories go viral. This one goes deeper. It lingers, it challenges. Because real leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about hearing the quietest cries. So if this story moved you, don't just feel something, share it. Let the world remember that sometimes real change begins with the smallest voice using the oldest boots. This was the March of the Boots, and it's only just begun.